Two disasters in 2025, Lisbon and Monte Faito, two countries, two cable systems, and one single breaking point, trust in transportation. In Lisbon and in Italy, historic funiculars and tourist cable cars turned into deadly traps. But what connected these tragedies? Today, we're reconstructing the final moments of the Elevador da Glória in Lisbon and the Monte Faito Cable Car in Italy to understand how similar failures cost dozens of lives. If you want investigations that reveal the truth behind real-life disasters, hit subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next episode. Lisbon, the Elevador da Glória. The Elevador da Glória is one of Lisbon's landmarks. Operating since 1885, it connects Restauradores Square to the Bairro Alto and carries thousands of people every day, both locals and tourists. It's more than transportation. It's cultural heritage, a living part of the city's identity. But on September 3rd, 2025, that symbol became the stage of horror. Just after 6 p.m., at rush hour, the funicular derailed while descending the hill. The traction cable snapped without warning. Out of control, the car sped down the 275-meter track before slamming violently into a building. The result was catastrophic. 16 dead and 23 injured, many of them tourists, Portuguese, German, French, Swiss, Brazilian, and South Korean. The operator, a veteran of the system, was also killed. For the city, it was as if a piece of its soul had been torn away. Witnesses describe panic, tourists screaming, chaos echoing down the narrow street. Smoke, bodies being pulled from wreckage. Ambulances and firefighters swarmed within minutes. But the tragedy was already sealed. A child survived, but his father did not. Early investigation showed it could have been prevented. Hours before the crash, Lisbon City Hall had canceled a preventive maintenance contract, calling it too expensive. Workers had already flagged recurring problems, but the warnings were ignored. Public outrage was immediate. The government declared a national day of mourning and suspended all of Lisbon's funiculars, Glória, Bica, Lavra, and Graça, until full audits were carried out. The incident was compared to other urban disasters that leave permanent scars on a city's memory. Lisbon, a city that sells itself on charm and tradition, was now on the front pages for negligence that cost 16 lives. Monte Faito, the cable car. In Italy, tragedy struck a few months earlier. On April 17, 2025, the Monte Faito Cable Car, near Naples, became the scene of an accident that quickly made global headlines. Built in the 1950s, the cable car is famous for its breathtaking views over the Bay of Naples. Thousands ride it every year. But that spring afternoon, what was supposed to be a scenic journey turned into disaster. One cabin, freshly reopened after winter maintenance, suffered catastrophic failure. The traction cable snapped. Within seconds, the cabin plunged into a steep ravine, killing 4 people. The operator, a British couple, and an Israeli tourist. A 5th victim was rescued alive but critically injured. The second cabin, carrying 16 passengers, was saved after a complex 90-minute rescue involving firefighters, alpine teams, and helicopters, all in dense fog and high winds. The emotional shock was immediate. Families were shattered, embassies stepped in, and major international outlets ran the story. Images of twisted metal in the ravine spread worldwide, shaking confidence in a form of transport once considered safe. Italian prosecutors opened an inquiry for involuntary manslaughter and public disaster, investigating possible failures in inspection and maintenance after the seasonal reopening. Once again, negligence seemed woven into a system that should have protected lives. What happens to the human body in accidents like these? In both Lisbon and Monte Faito, death came not just from the crash, but from the brutal forces unleashed in seconds. Lisbon, Elevador da Glória. When the cable snapped, the funicular accelerated downhill. In the final impact against the building, passengers' bodies were thrown into hard surfaces. That caused severe traumatic brain injury, immediate unconsciousness, massive internal bleeding, multiple fractures in the legs, pelvis, and arms. internal hemorrhage from organs being crushed against the ribcage. Many died instantly from fatal head injuries or ruptured organs. Others survived for minutes or hours, only to die from hemorrhagic shock. Massive blood loss that stops the heart. Monte Faito Cable Car. Here, the suspended cable snapped, sending the cabin plunging dozens of meters. The sudden stop on impact multiplies the body's weight many times over. Fatal neck injuries, severing the spinal cord, blunt chest trauma, collapsed lungs, immediate cardiac arrest, ruptured internal organs, even without visible wounds. In falls like this, some die instantly, but others survive briefly, unconscious, before succumbing to internal bleeding or respiratory failure. Symptoms in survivors before death: shallow, irregular breathing, collapsed lungs, extreme paleness and rapid unconsciousness, shock, convulsions or rigidity linked to head trauma. This is why these crashes aren't always instant deaths. Instead, they often follow a chain reaction inside the body: bleeding, neurological collapse, and heart failure. Human impact. Lisbon and Monte Faito differed in scale, but not in grief. In Lisbon, the sheer toll, 16 deaths, created a wave of collective mourning. Families left flowers and candles at the site, turning the street into a memorial. In Italy, though fewer people died, the pain was no less intense. Tourists among the victims meant the tragedy crossed borders. The British couple who died had posted cheerful photos just hours earlier, a trip of dreams ending in heartbreak. In both cases, the reaction was the same: disbelief. How could something so predictable, a snapped cable, still happen in the 21st century? Mechanism of the disaster. Both tragedies had the same root: critical cable failure. In Lisbon, the traction cable broke, sending the funicular into free fall. In Monte Faito, the support cable failed, dropping the cabin entirely. Technically, they're different systems. The Elevador da Glória is an urban funicular, while Monte Faito is a suspended aerial tramway. But both depend on rigorous inspections, periodic cable replacement, and redundant braking systems. In both, there had been warnings about poor maintenance. In Lisbon, canceled contracts and ignored staff complaints. In Monte Faito, questions about inspections after winter work. The pattern is clear: when money and bureaucracy come before safety, passengers become victims. Lessons in context. These accidents raise a global question: can we really trust cable transport? Statistically, yes, it's safe, but history shows otherwise. Caprun, 2000. Cavalis, 1976 and 1998. Madarone, 2021. And now, Lisbon and Monte Faito all reveal how one failure can kill dozens. The lessons are obvious: full transparency in inspections, no hidden reports, no canceled contracts to save costs, real-time monitoring, sensors that detect wear before failure, international standards, universal rules for maintenance and certification. Until those changes happen, every ride on the cable car or funicular carries the same doubt: when will the next failure come? The Elevador da Glória and Monte Faito Cable Car are now remembered not for their charm or views, but for tragedies that should never have happened. Lives were lost not by fate, but by human error and political choice. And maybe the harshest truth is this: when a cable snaps, it's not just steel that breaks, it's public trust. Subscribe to the channel. Here, we investigate not just how lives ended, but what they meant. When tragedy exposes the fragility of what we thought was safe.